Boys and girls, I would like, before we end our lesson, to talk about the country of Egypt. The country of Egypt is a very, very interesting place. Do you know that today that people go to Egypt from all parts of the world to see the great things that are built there? The great pyramids. In fact, they're called the 7 wonders of the world. The great pyramids, the Nile River, all the temples, and there's just so much to see in the land of Egypt. One of the oldest countries in the world. Well, what's interesting, in the time of Joseph, this is the map that would pretty much look like the time of Joseph. This is the Nile River, which is one thing that makes Egypt an interesting country, because the Nile River flows from the south up to the north and empties into the Mediterranean Sea. Normally, rivers flow from north to south. Now, this isn't the only river in the world that flows from south to north. There are a couple of small rivers, I believe, in the United States, one in Florida, I think maybe another one in Oregon. Possibly there are places in the Red River that flow in that direction. I'm not sure about that. But anyway, this is the longest river in the entire world. It's about 4,200 miles long, much longer than our Mississippi River in the United States. There's something else very interesting about Egypt is you would think, since this is northern Egypt, that it would be called Upper Egypt. But it's not. It's called Lower Egypt. And then the southern end of Egypt is called Upper Egypt. So can you figure out why it's possibly called that? Well, we know that it's called that because of the way that the river is flowing from south to north. So, since everything flows in this direction, the Egyptians call this Upper Egypt. And then as the water flows in this direction, they call this area Lower Egypt, which is very interesting. Now, something else that's very interesting about the land of Egypt is this is barren land through here. You can't live in this area, or at least they couldn't back in biblical times, because it was dry and there was no fertile soil to be able to grow crops or to grow grass for your cattle and stock to graze on. So this area is uninhabitable. This area is uninhabitable. This area is uninhabitable. And so is this area. Now, Egypt was known to have some fortresses. Now, they didn't need a fortress on this side because it was just too long a distance and hot, dry desert for any enemies to approach them from this direction. Now, they might, from the direction of Africa, they could approach them this way, so possibly they had fortresses here. They probably had their fortresses here because there were trade ships that would come from other countries into these ports, and they would trade their goods. There was probably a fortress here because it would be another entry area. We're just guessing. We know they had fortresses, but we're just not positive exactly where they would be. It's possible that they had one here because there would be ships in this area. But anyway, I just wanted you to understand that this is so dry and uninhabitable that it was a natural fortress. Now, something else that's interesting in Egypt is this inhabitable place. where it's green. The only place where you can grow crops and your livestock can live and graze is this green area. Well, why is that? Why is it not barren like the other areas? Because this Nile River is fed from great mountains in Africa. And these great mountains would have big snow caps on them. And so the beginning of every summer, those snow caps would melt. Plus, there would be great torrential rains in that time of the year. So, every year they could count on the Nile River flooding. Now, when the water would recede, it left great, rich deposits of soil on each side of it. So, they were able to raise their crops here. And always they could depend on the Nile River to flood again each year. Now, during the time of Joseph, Pharaoh's palace would be in the city of Thebes, which is right here in Upper Egypt. But when Pharaoh gives Joseph and his family a section of land to live in, do you know he gives Joseph the very best of what he had to offer? Now, why do you think he would do that? Because Pharaoh knew that Joseph had saved all the Egyptian people from death. Had it not been for Joseph being able to interpret those dreams that he had, they would have not been able to prepare for the great famine. So when Pharaoh finds out that Joseph's family is going to be reunited with him, he wants Joseph to give them the land of Goshen. It's a gift that they can have for as long as they want it. The most fertile place in all of Egypt. You know, Pharaoh gave Joseph the best of what he had to offer because he loved him so much, because Joseph had saved them from death. Kind of reminds us of Jesus. Did Jesus not save us from death? We should love him so much that we would be willing to give Jesus the very best of what we have to offer. Now, what are some things that we might have to offer Jesus? Some of our time, instead of being selfish with our time, with our money. To be sure that when we offer any contribution to God, that it's the best that we have to offer, that we give from the top of our income, not off the bottom. That we don't give God just the crumbs of what we have left over. You see, we show God how much we love him by how much we give back to him. Joseph knew that Pharaoh must love him a lot to give him that area, the land of Goshen. Well, kids, I believe that's about all that I have to tell you right now about the land of Egypt, except we're going to be studying a lot about it in the next few weeks, because when the first chapter of Exodus begins, it will have been 400 years past from the death of Joseph until the birth of Moses. And you're going to see what the book of Exodus is all about, what happens. We're still continuing this story. It's just going to pick up 400 years later. I hope you'll join me, because it's a very, very interesting study. Bye-bye.